So, Mark, a lot of time in the NFL. I don't know. Game managers almost seems derogatory. Do we even know what one is?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people use it as a derogatory term, and I think that's the way it was being used in that particular soundbite. But bottom line to me is a game manager, that's what you're supposed to do as a quarterback. You're supposed to manage the game and put your offense in the best situation to win football games. That's what managing a game is all about. So your ability to read a defense correctly and then basically attack the weakness of the defense and put the ball in a position on time with accuracy where it's supposed to go. That to me is not game managing. That to me is playing quarterback at an efficient level. And that really is truly what it's supposed to be, not to change the game by taking a chance with the football on a 50-50 ball that you shouldn't throw. That's not quarterbacking. That is schoolyard quarterbacking. And I want a guy that manages the game well. Brock Purdy, where are they? Oh, they're atop the NFC along with Dallas and Dak Prescott. And I mean, for Cam Newton, how many times did you do that? Yeah. And listen, man, that guy is as dynamic an athlete as there is in this league. But the problem with athletes that play quarterback is oftentimes their default mechanism is from the neck down. I'm going to take off and I'm going to make something happen with my legs, right? I want your default mechanism at the quarterback position to be from the neck up. I'm going to make the best play for my football team that doesn't put them in harm's way and gives us the best opportunity to win a football game. So, like, you can sit there and point to game managing as being, a backhanded compliment or an insult, but I think it's what the best quarterbacks in the league do on a consistent basis. And I will tell you this, when you talk Jared Goff in that, like, shame on you, because Jared Goff puts the ball in tighter windows than you've even ever thought about playing. What was completely covered to you is wide open to Jared Goff, and there's nobody that's any more accurate or any better at fitting it into tight windows than Jared Goff. So I would suggest you go back and look at the way these guys play the game, and if you played the game that way, you'd still be playing it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And you said athletic. It's funny when you start thinking about the quarterbacks that he named. Brock Purdy doesn't wow you with athleticism. Dak used to run since that leg injury, that gruesome one. He hasn't run as much. Tua, he's not going anywhere. And Jared Goff can't run, but they all have winning records. I think all of them are leading their divisions right now, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I don't even care about the running aspect of the quarterback. I care about your ability to manipulate a pocket. Like, I say this all the time, and I say it not in jest. I believe this. Tom Brady was the best scrambler I've ever watched play the game. He just never left the pocket when he scrambled. He just moved and manipulated the pocket. I would much rather have a quarterback that has great awareness inside the pocket, that moves and slides and keeps the ball alive and keeps the passing game alive within the pocket. Those are the guys, to me, have great movement skills. Brock Purdy has unbelievable movement skills in the pocket, understands the pocket, and that's where this game, rightfully so, should be played at the quarterback position more often than not. There's a reason we've got an epidemic of quarterback injuries in this league right now. We've got so many backup quarterbacks. I mean, if the AFC playoffs were to start today, like, there'd be 4 teams, I believe, with backup quarterbacks playing. So, I look at all that stuff, and I think it's just the way you kind of look at things, the way you look at the game, and the way you think the game should be played. And I believe it should be at the quarterback position, played from the neck up and played from the pocket as much as possible. I love the guys that can move around. I love Lamar. I love what he's able to do, and he has improved in his ability to operate the game from the pocket, and he's done that this year as well. So kudos to him. But I think from a health standpoint and just a efficiency standpoint, especially come playoff time, that's where the game needs to be played.
One more on the Cowboys and Bills. If I told you, Mark, I think the Buffalo Bills are the most dangerous team in the AFC right now, even though they're not in the playoffs right now, your thoughts would be?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that with you. I mean, obviously they have the quarterback, they have the weapons to be that. I think defensively they have the weapons on the defensive side of the ball to be that as well. For them though, unfortunately, they're going to have to probably win out or at least win 3 of the next 4 And even if they win 3 of the next 4, depending on what other teams do, they could still be on the outside, on the outside looking in because of their conference record and the tiebreakers in the conference record and all those things. So I think the Bills need to win out to make to the playoffs. If they go 3-1 and end up 10-7, I think there's going to be 2 or 3 other teams that will have the tiebreaker on the Bills, and they'll be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, big one this weekend. Let's stay in the AFC real quick. Obviously, your tenure with the Broncos, your radio history there. I got to say, there's a lot of gamblers out there who still think Denver's kind of fugazi, winning with the turnovers, not winning pretty. They beat a backup quarterback last week in Easton Stick. That loss to Houston, still kind of a bad loss. I don't know, Mark, where are you on Denver as they are firmly in the playoff hunt, but some of the underlying metrics do not speak well of them.
Yeah, well, I don't put a whole lot of weight into metrics. I put the weight into what I see on film. And the Houston thing, like even if you had average quarterback play in the Houston game, and I thought Russell Wilson was horrible in that game, an average quarterback would have hung 35 on Houston. And I think you saw what happened to Houston when they went to play the Jets, right? Like they got exposed. And I think Broncos did a good job of exposing some of the weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball, but they were 0 for 11 on third down. And frankly, Russell missed 3 wide open touchdown passes that would have been big plays over the top. So it just wasn't a great performance. But I will tell you this, and I'll give a lot of credit to Sean Payton. They know exactly what they are. They're going to mitigate weakness. They're going to play to their strengths. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to set up their passing game, the underneath stuff, the dump off to the backs, the screens to the backs, the screens to the wide receiver. And then they're going to run their play pass stuff, which is, the 7-step, 7-step drops with 7-8-man protections and 2-man routes. And they're going to take a shot to Cortland Sutton. That's who they are. That's what they do. And when you play that way, you talk about the turnovers not being something that's sustainable. When you play that way, what ends up happening to the opponent is their offense starts counting possessions. You're going to dominate time of possession. You're going to have at the end of the game, you're going to have a 10-plus minute time possession advantage. So you start, and I've been on this side as an offense going, man, we only had the ball 1 time in the first quarter. We've only had it 3 times in the first half. And you start saying, man, we may only get 4 more possessions. So now instead of adhering to our game plan, even if you're only down by 7, you feel like you're down by 14 or 17. So you start throwing it on every down, making yourself one-dimensional. The receiver catches it. He struggles for an extra 2 yards. That means 4 more hands or 5 more hands, 6 more hands are in there punching the ball. You're creating those turnovers. So the way they're playing on the offensive side of the ball lends itself to the defense continuing to create turnovers. And I think that's the big thing, or the big misnomer that the numbers would tell you, and people would tell you, oh, they can't sustain that. Well, yeah, you can. If you can sustain the way you're playing football, that lends itself to you becoming a great takeaway team.
Do you think this will work against Detroit? They're, significant underdogs on the road. Detroit in the Dome.
Yeah.
If Detroit grabs a lead, does Denver have the comeback capabilities?
Well, I think Detroit, honestly, when you look at them defensively, they've had their struggles. Yeah. And I think Detroit, if you're really on point with Detroit, I think they have one guy who's a huge, big time difference maker. And that's Aiden Hutchinson. I think Alex Anzalone, the linebacker position, is a great player. I think Brian Branch, the nickel cornerback, who's a rookie, really good football player. But they have had their issues on the defensive side of the ball. I think the one thing that really lends itself to Detroit this weekend is they played poorly last weekend. Some of their best players, Jared Goff, turned the ball over. He didn't have a great game. They've had some injuries on the offensive line. They had to shuffle some folks around. Frank Ragnow, their center, has been out. And then I think you look at a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who dropped a couple of balls that, that's not who he is. So they had some guys that were their best players that did not play their most efficient or best football. So that lends itself to Detroit having a bounce back. But if the Broncos can maintain their philosophy, can maintain their identity in who they are and the way they win football games, they're going to be a tough out for Detroit. They're a tough team. They're a hard-nosed team. And defensively, man, they are putting a ton of pressure. They are a blitz first, blitz any down, put you in harm's way, put your quarterback in decision-making mode. They're actually playing really good football right now.
All right, I'll wrap up with a question about Shanahan. Kyle, that is. You played for his dad in Denver, Mike. Shanahan's not getting a lot of love for Coach of the Year, which is weird. But it's a tough market. I'm just curious, where are you on these Niners, the way they're built? I really do believe that we're going to start to see some teams try the Niners model of let's not pay our quarterback $50 million and let's have stacked skill position players, awesome defensive front seven. I just wonder, have you seen enough from the Niners that you think this could be a sea change for the 25 teams that don't have a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type player?
Well, I think it's the way that football should be played, frankly. We put so much on the quarterback, and, we have morphed into this spread offense, get everybody outside the box. And when you start to run the plays, and I think one of the things that Shanahan probably does better than any other coach in football is you're not calling plays, you're calling an offense. And so you're telling your players what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it, and why and how it will benefit them in the long run. So Kyle will run a play that he knows will run a run play, for instance, that he knows is going to net 2 yards per carry. That's not worth a crap. But he's running that play to get those 2 yards to set up some play action he has after that. So he tells his players, man, I need you to sell out this tight ends. I need you to sell out fullback, wide receiver. I need you to sell out. I need you to push crack on this wide receiver. And if you do this for me and we run this play 4 times, I'm going to get you a 20-yard explosive and it could be a touchdown. I'm going to get you a 20-yard explosive and it's going to probably be a touchdown. I'm going to get these things for you, but you've got to sell out on this particular play because I'm setting up 3 or 4 other plays down the road. He doesn't call plays. He calls an offense. And his players understand exactly why they're calling a play, even when they're running it into numbers that don't really match up and success is going to be very limited. They're doing it for another purpose. And I think that's the what sets him apart as a play caller. And that's why he's so exceptional. But that's why these 49ers are, in my mind, the best team in football right now.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.